Welcome to the E-commerce Profits Podcast, where we feature top founders and experts in the e-commerce industry and take an in-depth look at the struggles and successes in growing e-commerce brands profitably.
Hey guys, Josh Chin here. I'm the host of the E-commerce Profits Podcast, where we feature top experts and founders in the e-com industry, and we go behind the scenes of the struggles and successes in growing a brand. I have Dr. Jeremy Wise here from Rise 25, who has done thousands of interviews with successful entrepreneurs and leaders in e-commerce and various industries. And we have flipped the script today, and he will be interviewing me.
Josh, I'm excited. And this is a special episode because this is a year in review episode. So you're going to talk about some of the top lessons learned, some of the guests you've had on, and some of your favorite stories. And before we get to that, this episode is brought to you by chronos.agency. If you're watching the video, you can see it's on the screen right now. And if you're a direct-to-consumer e-commerce brand that's ready for next level growth and actually unlock the customer lifetime value through email marketing, SMS, and push, you want to call Chronos Company. That's what they do. They've helped hundreds of brands get over $70 million in return from email, SMS, and mobile push. And their clients get an average of 3,500% ROI from their efforts. And they've worked with Truly Beauty, many skin and beauty brands. So I don't know why, Josh, some, beauty brands and apparel brands are attracted to you, but I know you help a lot of direct to consumer. So, the next step, email their team, sales@chronos.agency, and you can go to chronos.agency to learn more and obviously check out the episodes on the podcast. So we're going to go through, if you're looking at this, chronos.agency/podcast page. You can see all of them or get them on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you like listening. The first one we're going to go through is how to audit Amazon PPC campaigns for profitable sales with Mina. What a nice, super nice, friendly, smart guy. What stuck out for you with Mina?
Mina is one of those guys that I truly enjoy having conversation with. He's someone that I really respect. Not because he's done incredible things in his businesses, he has, but most importantly, he's someone that I want to learn from because we have very common values that I really respect. And in this conversation, Jeremy, you're in the e-com space as well, specifically Amazon, and I'm a complete stranger to the Amazon space until I met Mina. And he taught me everything that I needed to know about Amazon, essentially. And a big part of the conversation that we had was around how Shopify businesses can create a completely different sales channel and capture existing attention on Amazon as a marketplace and as an additional sales channel that may be previously untapped. What I've come to realize is that a lot of existing businesses on Shopify already have search volume and people looking for their brand and products on Amazon that they're not actively capturing, which is then captured by competitors and alternative products. And it's just money left on the table that they are not capturing. So really interesting conversation. We went into detail on how he structures his audit process and how he thinks about creating a successful Amazon store. So wonderful interview.
Awesome. Love it. So the next one we're going to talk about is Dan. And ForChics scaled past 8 figures with high converting e-commerce ad creative.
It's incredible. Dan is one of our oldest clients at Chronos. We've been working together for over, I think, 3 years now. It's incredible. And Chronos has been around for like 4.5 years, right? So he's been there for the majority of our existence. And we've seen how Dan scaled his brand, ForChics, a beauty brand, from basically 1 mil a year to what it is today. And over the past 3 years, he's generated over 25. I think it's like the latest number that I got from him was 27 mil in revenue. And I asked him what changed along the way as he scaled from his initial 1 mil to 25, 27 mil. And his number one answer was creatives, and specifically high quality creative testing that may not be what you think. It's not about creating a massive production of videos and images that look really, really amazing. It's starting from the end point of what you're trying to accomplish with the performance of those ads and coming up with creatives that serve that outcome that you're trying to accomplish. Really interesting interview. We broke down what it takes to succeed in the landscape of the war between Apple and Facebook. It's a nightmare, but strong creatives will always win. So that was a fun interview.
Love it. Next, Tanner Larsson. He's OG, old school. And you talked about how to optimize e-commerce revenues.
He is one of the entrepreneurs that I looked up to for a long time, even before I started Chronos as a company. It's insane because BGS as a company, agency, and an events organizer has been around for a long time. And Tanner himself has been in this scene for since 2003, 2002, essentially when eBay launched, which is insane to think about. So eBay was his first kind of venture into e-commerce, and that's how long he's been in the scene. And he's kind of seen the evolution of e-commerce. And we talked about what has changed and what hasn't changed, and what it takes to optimize revenue for e-commerce today. And he's wrote what a lot of his readers call the Bible of e-commerce in his book, E-commerce Revolution. E-commerce Evolved. And he's wrote 2 versions of that. He made a refresh very recently. Definitely check that out. And we talked a little bit about his thought process around building successful e-commerce brands.
Yeah. The E-commerce Evolved. It's in the show notes of the episodes, so check it out. The next one, Josh, is Brandon Young. Mindset, values, strategies, becoming an 8-figure Amazon seller.
Look, Brandon is incredibly successful as an entrepreneur. He's made a ton of money from Amazon, naturally, obviously, and he has also been a coach and an educator in the space for a long time. And he's birthed a lot of successful entrepreneurs through his teachings and his coaching. But what was most interesting to me during this conversation was how much I learned from Brandon about the mindsets, systems of values and principles that allowed him to not only find success, but find meaning and purpose as he scaled from 7 to 8 figures and now towards 9 figures, and what it means to him and why he wakes up every single day continuing to work even though he doesn't need to. Fascinating interview, personally, to me. I think it is one that you absolutely need to listen to if you are on the journey to finding success.
Yeah. And he's super, super generous with sharing his knowledge with people. That's what I love about Brandon. Next one is James, the power of native ads to scale e-commerce brands, founder of Symphony Agency. Talk about James.
James has been a very close referral partner of ours. We've done a lot of business together. We've sent him a ton of business. He sent us a ton of business. And most importantly, he's done amazingly well on native ads specifically. He's been in the affiliate marketing space, the lead generation space for a long time. His personal story is incredibly interesting. He went from being jailed, coming out of jail, turning over a new leaf, and creating massive businesses around different verticals and industries. Very fascinating interview. We talked about native ads and how a lot of Shopify brands are just missing out on the opportunity just because it's not as sexy as Facebook and Instagram and all these social channels, but really one to not miss out on. Very, very interesting. And actually one of our earlier episodes in the podcast as well.
The next one, I have to listen just to hear about the jail. That sounds crazy. This is one of the most popular ones. Yeah. One of the most popular ones, frameworks for scaling a $250 million D2C business in 3 years with Davie Fogarty of the Oodie.
This is an insane episode. Davie Fogarty has been a client of ours for a while now. And He scaled the Oodie amongst other brands, the Oodie calming blankets, pop naps, and a bunch of others. I believe currently 7 brands under his portfolio and growing. From essentially 10 mil a year when we first started out working with them, about 10 to 20 mil, to 200 mil a year in revenue, purely through direct to consumer channels, specifically Shopify. Incredible journey, incredible scale. And it's
he
really
was only
interesting to take his
25 years
mind.
old when he started.
25 years old last year.
Oh, last
Right?
year. Oh my gosh.
Yep. So he's basically 1 year older than I am, which is insane to think about. And when you talk to the guy, and you gotta watch the episode and listen to the episode to really understand what I'm trying to say here, is that he comes from a place of wanting to learn and grow, and he's very unlike entrepreneurs my age, where immaturity is quite kind of rampant, and it's very different to kind of experience the interview with him, because he knows what it takes to succeed, because he's been through multiple failures before finding his first success. So his story is incredibly interesting, um, from building a Vietnamese roll shop out in Australia to multiple other businesses before finding success with the Oodie as his first venture. It's an insane story, and a very humble dude. And I've learned a lot in this interview. So one of our most popular episodes, actually.
Scaling e-commerce brands through Google Ads with Sebastian.
Oh, Sebastian is a fun one. No, Sebastian runs.
You have the most, the most successful people under 25 here. I mean, these everyone here looks about 18. It's amazing.
I know. It's incredible, and this is what I love about the e-commerce space. It is non-discriminatory. It doesn't care if you're old, you're young, you're what race you are, what ethnicity you are, what language you speak. You can find success as long as you put in the hard work and you continue to grow and learn. Sebastian is a great example of that. He is super young. He has an incredible YouTube channel. I believe approaching or across the 300,000 subscribers mark now, based out of Arizona. He has interviewed a bunch of different successful entrepreneurs on his channel. He puts out really, really good content all the time. He's also an e-commerce entrepreneur and currently running a Google Ads agency called Digital Wealth MB, which is really interesting. We talked a little bit about his journey, how he got his start, what his mindset is like, thinking about success at such a young age, and handling the wealth and the network that he has right now. And of course, we talked about Google Ads and what it means for an e-commerce brand, and how to find success in that channel.
Yeah, it's incredible. I'm just gonna pull up his YouTube channel to see here. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, he's past 300. Yeah, 308.
You could see some of the. Wow, that is wow. So check out that channel. Really interesting. The next one is how to make e-commerce business sellable with Ben Leonard.
Ben is the only guest that we've had on the show twice now. The first episode, we talked about his business and how he sold his e-commerce brand, and how he started his next venture. So we talked about his experience, what the transaction looked like, what life was like after selling. In this episode, we talked about the fundamentals of building a business that is sellable, especially in an e-commerce space where, generally speaking, businesses are profitable, they're fast growing. No one really thinks about selling all that much because there is no need to, until you find a plateau, right? And you kind of flat out on your growth, which is not what you want. You want to be selling when you are on the rise. So we talked about how Ben approaches building an e-commerce brand that is scalable and sellable, what the process of selling the business looks like, structuring a deal for an exit, and what happens after the exit, which is super fascinating and a great interview for anyone thinking about preparing for a sale or building business that is with the intention of selling it eventually.
The next one is persevering as an entrepreneur. Kara Goldman of Hint. If anyone's seen Hint, drink Hint, it's an amazing story of growth.
Incredible. Kara's story is really, really inspiring. She started out in an industry that she has absolutely no clue in, going into the beverage industry, specifically bottled water, flavored water, is incredibly daunting as a female entrepreneur with no experience. She talks about her entire experience, the story in her book, Undaunted, which I believe is linked in the show notes as well. And we talked about her experience in overcoming. Yeah, it's in the subtext as well. Overcoming doubts and doubters, overcoming the obstacles that many people just don't see in creating a successful business, specifically in the beverage industry. Just because how hard it is to package beverages and ship them out direct to consumer. It's so heavy.
It's heavy.
It's really hard to make the logistics work. So we talked a little bit about that and kind of what's next for her. Yeah.
We have scaling remote teams, maintaining culture, growing through SMS marketing. Adam Turner of Postscript.
This is a fun one. Postscript is a great partner of ours. Chronos is a platinum partner at Postscript. And we've been working with Postscript for a long time, pretty much since the early stages of their inception. I actually met Adam back in, I believe, 2019, when he was working on his laptop at Klaviyo Boston, Klaviyo Boss Conference. And we talked about his journey and how he thinks about scaling remote teams in a tech environment, which is incredibly, incredibly interesting. And thinking about building cultures that are built to succeed and to scale. It's one thing to build a great culture, but scaling great cultures is something that's incredibly difficult. And that's basically Adam's full-time job right now. We talked about SMS marketing as well, what brands are doing that's working in the space. What's next for Postscript? I'm super excited about what's next for Postscript this year, actually. They actually raised a ton of money to scale and to grow the product. We're proud partners. So listen to the episode and I'm sure you learn a ton of things.
We have the stress-free way to profitable micro-influencer marketing with David.
This was a really good one. Influencer marketing is often misunderstood in the e-commerce space, whereby it's treated as a sales channel alone. But the fact is that influencer marketing can be so much more. It can be used as a content pipeline for ads. It can also be used for UGC videos. It can be used for creating a much stronger network of buyers and consumers. We talked about micro influencers specifically in this episode, which is very accessible to brands of any scale, even if you're just starting out. Micro influencers are way more accessible and surprisingly way, way more impactful than typical large scale influencers with massive followings. We talked about the cheat codes, the hacks and the tricks and all that good stuff in this episode. David held nothing back and we went really, really deep.
Got to check that one out. I remember, Josh, I was talking to Roy Krebs of Natural Stacks, and they did a phenomenal job of getting micro influencers. Sometimes, the funny thing is, micro influencers turn into larger influencers, like over a period. So when you get them in the micro influencers, they may turn into something much larger later on, and you kind of help them at the kind of the ground floor.
Exactly, and you got in early. And that relationship is built from day one. And you got to remember that micro influencers are humans. They're people. They're people that you got to connect with. And often people forget that, like, oh, influencers, that's just a sales channel, right? But you're dealing with people. It's not an algorithm. It's not media buying. It's human, right? So when you think about that, it takes a completely different shift in perspective to the channel.
Yep. Next, rising above the noise in the e-commerce beauty category with Rick of 100% Pure.
This was interesting. Rick has been an entrepreneur for a long time, since 2005, if I remember correctly. And he is the operator at 100%pure.com. A very OG direct-to-consumer beauty brand. Lots of SKUs, right? A lot of different categories of products, a lot of products. And his strategy for scaling is very, very different from a typical e-com brand that has just a handful of SKUs. If I remember correctly, they have hundreds of variations of your products in your store. And that's very difficult to manage. So we talked about product pricing, the idea of jumping onto trends. How do you structure a product life cycle, and the problem of kind of thinking of product life cycles in the e-commerce space as you would in the retail space. Typically, product life cycles go from the inception of a product to the end of life cycle of a product, and kind of just dying away. But you can't exactly do that in an e-com space. Rick goes into detail about why that's the case when it relates to building a strong customer relationship. Because what ended up happening with Rick is that he tried just removing products that were not as popular from his store, and he got a ton of comments and emails coming in from loyal customers requesting for that one specific product that they've been using for years and years and years. So even though it wasn't as profitable as the other products, he chose to keep those products in the store, just because it kept his loyal customers happy.
And they
so
get
really
that, I guess,
episode.
and then they get other products too, right?
Exactly, right. It's about keeping the customer, keeping the relationship, and ultimately helping them discover new products along the way.
The next one is getting the most out of your exit with Joe Valley of Quiet Light Brokerage.
This is really interesting. So we spoke to Ben from the perspective of someone who sold his business and is now now helping others go through the same process as he did. Joe comes from a perspective of years and years and years of helping successful businesses find the exit that they want, their dream exits, right? And we talked about what it takes to find the right advisor or broker for your business, what it means to work with one, and what life looks like after an exit. So lots of stuff that we talked about in this interview. Very, very interesting. We also talked a little bit about his book. I believe it's called The Exitpreneur.
Yep,
that's the one. The Exitpreneur's Playbook. Really cool. It kind of shifts your mindset around building businesses from being an entrepreneur operating and building businesses to an entrepreneur building assets that are sellable. Very fascinating and worth a listen.
Josh, this was an amazing one. You know, if you haven't heard of Harmon Brothers, you've probably seen some of their viral YouTube 100%. Videos they've created for brands, but this is about creating powerful ads for your brand with Daniel Harmon of the Harmon Brothers.
This is the man behind some of the most popular internet ads in history that you've probably seen. Poopery, Squatty Potty, Purple Mattress, Fiber Fix, Chatbooks, and many, many, many more. Recently, I believe they partnered up with a deodorant company and took their brand from 7 figures to mid 8 figures in revenue over a couple of years. And again, kind of looping back onto that idea of what it takes to succeed in e-commerce, start with creatives And Harmon Brothers is exactly that, the perfect example of that. We talked about the history of Harmon Brothers, how it came to be, Daniel's approach to his creative approach to creating ads, what it takes to make consumers laugh, and the Harmon Brothers ads are popular in a way that they essentially coined it has become kind of like a term on its own, like a Harmon Brothers style ad. When we talk about a Harmon Brothers style ad, we're talking about like a funny video that's really engaging, that people want to watch from like all the way through, as if it's not an ad. And we talked about the challenges that they've faced in scaling their business, and we talked about what's next. So fascinating business, and really interesting mind to pick on. Daniel Harmon, definitely check this out.
I check out the Squatty Potty video at some point, and I challenge you not to buy the Squatty Potty after watching that video.
I know it's dangerous. It's dangerous. You're probably going to empty your wallet for sure.
So, how to build highly successful e-commerce brands with Ezra Firestone, a smart marketer.
This is a great one. Ezra was one of the guys that I looked up to very early on in my career, and building Chronos, actually. A big reason why we have been able to succeed in doing what we've done, especially in our first year of business, has been Ezra's email course. We took Ezra's email course. It changed the way that I thought about email marketing for e-commerce businesses. And I attribute a lot of our early success to his teachings. And we talked about his mindset around what makes him successful, his vision and his philosophy around building businesses. His tagline is serve the world unselfishly and profit. We talked a little bit about what that means to him, and we talked about what he would do if he had to start all over again. And this was a great episode. Lots of details, tactics, and also high-level ideas. Ezra has become a really good friend of mine. He's also an avid poker player, so that always makes things fun. Great episode. Definitely check this out.
The final thing I want to talk about, Josh, is this is some great recap of some of the lessons and guests from the year in review. And I wanted to kind of round it out with some tips and some of your favorite, biggest tips or biggest mistakes with email marketing, because this is what you do at Chronos Agency. So I know you have several thought leadership episodes where you're talking about giving people some gems as far as their email marketing, SMS marketing goes. So what are a few takeaways and or big mistakes people make with email and SMS?
Overcomplicating it. Number one mistake is overcomplicating it. It happens at every stage of the business. At the beginning, it's about, oh shit, I need a really good email system. And I need to have a massive plan that's charted out for my entire customer journey from start to finish. I need a pre-purchase phase, and I need
it's overwhelming
emails. It's overwhelming. It's a lot of ideas, right? And what people often don't realize is that the 80-20 rule, the 80-20 principle, plays a big part here. 20% of your email flows are going to generate 80% of your revenue, especially in the first 30 days. There is no need to think about what the entire roadmap is going to look like, because by the time you figure out your entire roadmap, your business has probably changed. E-commerce moves so quickly, your business is probably going to evolve just as quickly. It doesn't make sense for you to set something in stone right now that may not be effective 90 days from now. So the best thing to start with are 3 flows: the customer acquisition series, which is the welcome series, a cart abandonment flow, and a post-purchase flow. These 3 automations are going to cover the majority of what your key interactions would be with your consumers. And that's going to bump your revenue up significantly as you scale front-end traffic sources. We talked about the sales framework as well. This is a really, really simple sales framework when you think about launching new products or launching new sales events, this is a really simple way of thinking about building up towards a sale. It's not just about sending one email or one text message or one paid ad and you're done with your launch, right? Just as you would with launching a series of advertisements on Facebook, you need a series of emails to warm your list up and build attention and excitement towards a product launch or a sales launch. And we dived into detail in this episode. Actually, I believe one of the first, is this episode number 1?
I don't
Probably
know.
Is.
It may be. It may be.
It may very well be. But this was a really, really good one. I think that you're going to get a ton of value from just listening to this.
Check out this. This is one of them, but 6-step e-commerce sales framework to explode sales. And you can use that for new product, event, holiday. And listen, there's holidays every month. If you look at the month we were looking at the other day, there's always random, like National Donut Day, whatever the holiday is. They're all over the place. So use this 6-step framework for whatever you want to do. And Josh, I just want to thank you. I want to point people towards going to the podcast. You can go to chronos.agency just to learn more. Are there any other places we should point people online?
Yeah, chronos.agency is the perfect place to go to. If you're interested in having a conversation with my team to see how we can take your business to the next level. 2021 has been incredible. We generated over, I believe, 90 million in that year alone. So I want to correct you at the beginning of the show, but we generated 90 million for our clients across email and SMS. So we're excited to see what we can achieve with our clients this year. It's going to be incredible. Lots of new strategies, new insights that we've gathered across the year that we're ready to implement. So definitely schedule a time with us and we'll see how we can help.
Chronos.agency. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the E-commerce Profits Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get notified of future episodes.